The night before my finals, our house felt like a pressure cooker. The air was thick with coffee steam and eraser crumbs. My notes lay across the kitchen table like fallen dominoes. Kara drifted around them with a ring light tucked under her arm like a trophy. "One more video and I break 100,000, she said, half joke, half prayer. I nodded without looking up. I knew her type pattern: idea, nervous giggle, upload, doom scroll until her thumbs ached. When I got up to refill my mug, she slipped down the hallway. I caught only fragments: the faint hum of her light, the click of a tripod, Kara whispering to her phone as if it were a co-conspirator. "POV, your goody two-shoes sister can't take a joke." I rolled my eyes and filed it under tomorrow problems. Tonight was for fuel and sleep. I set my mug down, gathered my summaries, and headed for the stairs. The lamp at the landing threw that yellowish glow that makes every splinter in our wooden treads look honest, except what was invisible. My foot snagged. A thin, unseen bite around my ankles. Something that didn't belong on stairs and arrived too late to understand. My weight pitched forward, knees into wood, hand failing to find the rail. The world shrank to body, plank, air, impact. Sound arrived after light. First a white flash, electric, like standing too fast. Then the thud rebounded up my spine, and after that came the quiet in my legs. The steps smelled like lemon oil. Some part of me, stupidly practical, thought, there's something slick on these treads. My fingers scrabbled but felt muffled, as if I were wearing gloves that weren't mine. "Kara," I said. My voice didn't sound like it belonged to me. "Turn the light off." "Call." I reached for ambulance and found only the word now. She stood 2 steps above, phone horizontal, ring light a fake halo. The lens stared with the kind of hunger that counts metrics. "Oh, my God," she said, and it didn't sound like panic. "This is insane." "Call," I repeated, and it was strange how easily that one word slid out while everything below my waist refused to. My toes were radio silence. I tried to wiggle them just to prove her and myself wrong, but there was nothing. A room with the light switched off. She didn't come down. She zoomed in. "Say something for the viewers," she began, and that's when it stopped fitting inside any version of a joke. My vision tilted. The ceiling smeared. My skin felt cold, and I was pinned inside it. "Kara," I said, slow, as if speaking through syrup. "Something's wrong. Now!" There was a surf roar in my ears, a far-off sea. She swallowed. The screen wobbled. "Okay," she whispered to no one. The ring light clicked dark. The phone stayed on. And the steps beneath me no longer felt like wood but like a ledge with nothing beyond. They carried me to the couch like a rolled rug, my mother counting to 3, as if choreography can keep bones from protesting. Someone has swapped the living room lamp for interrogation light. Every dust mote looks guilty. Dad presses a bag of frozen corn to my lower back. The plastic crackles against skin I can barely feel. "It's a sprain," he declares, the way he diagnoses car noises from the driver's seat with the radio on. "Adrenaline makes it seem worse. If it were serious, you'd be screaming," Mom adds, already riffling the medicine basket for ibuprofen with the price sticker still on it from 2 houses ago. "You have exams tomorrow. Stress does this." Stress doesn't turn your legs into unanswered emails. "I can't move my toes," I say. I say it calmly, so it lands as a fact, not a tantrum. Dad looks at my feet as though stubbornness is visible. "Try harder," he says, and the words hit with the soft cruelty of habit. Kara stands at the edge of the rug, ring light dark, phone still awake. Her face is a scrim of apologies that never find their way out. I watch her thumb move, select, trash, confirm. She's pruning a tree while the house is on fire. "It wasn't," she starts, chokes on the rest. The thin fishing line is gone. The spool, too. Evidence evaporates faster than sympathy. "Call an ambulance," I say, because I have learned repetition is a form of survival. Mom's mouth tightens. "Ambulances are $800 just to show up," she answers, facts like sandbags. "We'll drive you if it's still bad in the morning. Ice 15 on, 15 off. That's what they'll tell us anyway. They'll also tell us we wasted everyone's time," Dad adds, arranging the frozen corn like a blessing. "You always get dramatic before big tests." Remember the stomach thing in 10th grade? The stomach thing in 10th grade was appendicitis. We laugh about how close it came to rupturing at Thanksgiving. I don't say that out loud. I breathe carefully and try to call my toes by name like lost cats. Nothing pads back. On the coffee table, Kara's phone screen glows with a thumbnail of me at the top of the stairs, still whole, still vertical. She hesitates, then swipes that one into some other folder. Insurance. Leverage. Maybe she doesn't even know which anymore. It'll be okay, she tells the room, not me. She just needs to chill. Condensation from the corn bag slides down my side, and I can't tell where it goes. The couch fabric holds me like an imprint in snow. My mother sets a timer and smooths my hair the way she did when I was 5 and feverish. Sleep, she says. You'll wake up fine. I stare at the ceiling and count the hairline cracks between us. The house settles. The ice timer dings. Somewhere in the kitchen, the ring light leans against the wall like a halo with its batteries drained. Kara's phone makes the soft sound it makes when a clip jumps to a cloud. My toes keep their silence. In the quiet, my body feels like a city after a blackout. Parts of it still humming, whole neighborhoods gone dark, waiting for someone to admit the grid failed. Dad kills the lamp and calls it a night like he's closing up a shop, keys clacking, decision final. Sleep it off, he says, the gospel he applies to headaches, heartbreaks, and now whatever this is. The living room sinks into aquarium light from the street. The frozen corn has sweated through its plastic, and my shirt is damp where I can still feel. Pain isn't a line, it's weather. It arrives in hot squalls, then recedes into a crackling drizzle. Pins and needles misnames it. These aren't pins. Their lit match heads rained along my spine. A storm that can't decide whether to burn or numb. I try to shift, to reroute the lightning. My legs stay as cooperative as furniture. I talk to them the way you talk to a pet that won't come. Here, here, good girl. Nothing. Mom returns with a blue bathroom basket, the same one that's hauled bandages and thermometers since kindergarten fevers. She fishes out a prescription bottle with a yellowing label and an expiration date that belongs to another life. The childproof cap resists, then snaps open with that powdery pharmacy smell. From your wisdom teeth, she says, as if history makes medicine timeless. 2 chalk-white pills clatter into her palm. With water. I swallow because refusing will start an argument, and arguments cost breath I need for staying still. Warm tap water tastes metallic. The pills lodge, then slide. Mom tucks a blanket around me, smoothing hair off my forehead like a spell. You'll feel better after some rest. If rest is a place, I can't find the road. The couch fabric prints its pattern into my calf where sensation ends, a fading coastline. The clock's red digits change with the smug patience of things that aren't in pain. 15 minutes on, 15 off, the ice timer says. Time measured by frostbite and thaw. My toes keep their unbroken strike. Kara hovers in the doorway, a shadow with a lit rectangle for a face. Her thumb moves, select, delete, confirm. Then the other gesture, save, quick and guilty. I'm sorry, she whispers to the hallway, not to me. She disappears, and the quiet clucks its tongue. The needles turn to a swarm. Little electricians race under the skin I can still claim. Below that, neighborhoods wink out street by street. I press my fingernails into my thigh hard enough to leave half-moons. Nothing blooms. The lower half of me might as well be in another room with the door shut. Around 2, Mom pads back with a glass and another pair of pills. One more dose, she says. The label's instructions and the calendar disagree, but she is the kind of person who trusts the sound of her own certainty. I take them. They make the edges fuzzy, not kinder. The pain brightens to neon and then dulls to a hum I can't tune out. Dad snores in the recliner he refused to leave, a sentinel asleep on duty. We'll reassess at 6, he'd said, like my body is some project he manages. I lie awake to keep watch over myself because someone has to. Somewhere near dawn, birds trill at a world that keeps its promises. Light stripes the ceiling. I test the grid again. The city is still dark. My legs are rumors that won't return my calls. Dawn peels the night off the ceiling in thin strips. The timer on the melted corn has stopped protesting. The bag is a lukewarm animal against my spine. Dad unfolds from the recliner with the stiffness of someone who believes in morning as a cure. Up you get, he says, as if getting is a switch. Mom hovers with a glass of water and the faith of routines. I gather myself the way you gather a dress you can't quite zip, awkward, hopeful, breath held. Elbows under me, palms to cushion, a push. My torso lifts, my legs don't receive the memo. The room tilts. For a second, I am a bridge with no support in the middle, all strain and prayer. Then the middle gives. The carpet surges up like a wave, and I fold into it, breath slammed out, head ringing with stars no one else can see. Kara! Mom's voice breaks on the name. Dad's hands are under my arms trying to lift a body that won't participate. Stand, he orders, as if verbs can boss nerves around. The lower half of me is sand after the tide goes out. I can't, I say not loud, but the word is a bell in the quiet. I can't move my toes. I want to add, look. I want to say, see me not moving them. But all I have is the fact slipped across the room, like a postcard. Mom's certainty drains in front of me. Dad's face flickers between anger and fear, as if one can scare the other away. Kara appears, hair a rough halo, phone in her fist like a confession. For once, it's not pointed at me. She looks younger than yesterday. I'll call, she says, and the relief is so sharp I almost mistake it for pain. The dispatcher's call arrives first, then sirens gathering the street like a ribbon. 2 paramedics bring morning in with them. Cold air, latex, the tidy clatter of competence. Hi, I'm Dana, the taller one says, eyes already mapping me. What's your name? What happened? She touches my ankles with gloved fingers. Can you wiggle your toes for me? I try. My face does the work my legs won't. Nothing moves. On 3, the other says, and they log roll me with practiced care, collar at my neck, spite a question they're not going to let the house answer. My parents crowd the edges with explanations that sound thinner now that the uniforms are here. She fell last night, Dad says. We iced it. Dana's mouth tightens almost imperceptibly. Okay, we're going to get her stabilized and transported. She speaks quietly but not secretly. After a fall with neurological symptoms, earlier evaluation is best. Delays can increase swelling and risk. It's not accusation, just a weather report none of us checked. Mom blinks like someone waking to a room she didn't choose. We thought. She doesn't finish the thought. It curls up and dies between us. They lift me onto the backboard, and the world narrows to ceiling tiles, and the brisk sky beyond the doorway. Kara takes a step toward the stretcher, phone half raised, then drops it to her side. I'll follow, she says, voice gone small. As they wheel me out, the birds are loud in a tree that doesn't care. The siren starts, a red thread pulling us through the morning. In the mirror bolted to the ambulance ceiling, a girl stares back at me with a white collar and a question where her legs should be. The city below the waist is still dark. Somewhere inside the hum of the engine, I imagine the grid deciding, flicker, flicker, stay. Dana's hand finds my shoulder. We've got you, she says, and for the first time all night, somebody does. Triage is fluorescent and fast. They roll me through double doors, and the room meets me, all stainless steel and purposeful hands. A nurse with comet red sneakers leans over my face. Name? Pain level? Can you feel this? A cool pen cap grazes my shin, then my ankle, then nothing. I rate the pain with a number that feels like a lie because numbers don't throb. They keep me in the collar, slide me from board to bed with a lift that makes my spine feel like a sentence with a missing word. Someone clips a pulse ox to my finger. Another pushes warm air into the blanket until it balloons like a soft raft. The doctor arrives as a presence before a person, voice steady, questions preloaded. Mechanism of injury? Time since fall? Any loss of bladder control? Can you move your toes? I try. My feet are uncooperative witnesses. Mom answers before I do, a reflex like swatting a fly. She fell last night. We iced it. She's under a lot of stress, finals. Were you messing around? Dad adds, the phrase he's been polishing all morning. You know, goofing off near the stairs? Kara stands behind them, face moon pale, hands worrying the phone she isn't filming with. The word prank lingers in my mouth, like a seed I'm not sure I can swallow without choking everyone in the room. The doctor's eyes move from their story to mine and wait. A pause is a kind of honesty. I trip, I say, and it tastes like the thinnest part of the truth. The doctor nods, not convinced, not arguing. We'll get imaging. They test my nerves the way electricians test circuits. Sharp or dull? A resident asks, tracing a line up my leg with something that alternates between bite and blunt. Above the knee is sensation that's half remembered. Below is a blank page. Reflex hammer absent. Ankles silent. The resident notes, pen clicking like a metronome for the news in his head. Red flags for spinal involvement. The doctor says, to the room, to the chart, to me. CT first, MRI after if needed. Needed sounds like already decided. Mom's smile is paper. So maybe a pinched nerve? We need to rule out fracture and cord injury. The doctor replies, gentle as a closed door. Time matters. They wheel me to the scanner and tuck me into a white ring that hums like a distant hive. The tech places a lead apron across my hips and asks me to hold still as if I've chosen not to move all morning. The machine spins, takes pictures of the parts of me I can't feel. I imagine the images like weather maps, bright storms gathering where I've been numb. Back in the bay, a monitor beeps in calm, patient syllables. Dad leans close, voice low and urgent. It was an accident. Say accident. Insurance, school, this could spiral. People do dumb things for attention. Mom adds, eyes sliding toward Kara, then away. Let's not ruin her life over a misunderstanding. The doctor returns with a printout and a new quiet. There's a compression fracture, he says, tapping the ghostly architecture of my spine. Swelling around the cord. We'll page neurosurgery and get the MRI. We'll also need a full history of how this happened. Kara's breath snags. My parents stare at the floor like it might produce a script. The collar itches, and the ceiling tiles count nothing for me. I think of the fishing line that felt like a question, and of the city below my waist, neighborhood still dark. When the social worker appears at the curtain's edge, clipboard folded to her chest, I realize the story I tell next is not a courtesy. It's power returning, one nerve at a time. The MRI room is a mouth, white and open, asking me to lie still on its tongue. The tech wedges foam in my ears and covers me with a blanket warm to kindness. It's loud, she warns. Hold as still as you can. As if stillness has been optional all day. She slides me in. The ceiling disappears, replaced by a tunnel of breath and magnets. The machine starts speaking in its square language, clacks and jackhammer beats, a metronome for dread. Between bursts, a voice blooms in my headphones. You're doing great, the tech says, a disembodied kindness. This next sequence is 4 minutes. Don't swallow if you can help it. I picture a stopwatch pacing my marrow. I picture my spinal cord as a cable with frayed insulation, sparks licking where messages used to travel without thinking. I try to count the patterns to distract myself. 8 knocks, a pause, a buzz like an electric fence. In the gaps, other sounds creep in. The remembered rip of fishing line, the soft insistence of my parents' voices bargaining with reality. A tear slides into my ear and tickles. I let it. When they pull me out, I'm blinking like I've been underwater. They wheel me to a dim reading room where 2 doctors stand in front of a wall of grayscale storms. One introduces himself, neurosurgery, calm eyes, the kind of voice that can build a bridge between 2 bad facts. The other is radiology, pointing with a capped pen at stripes and shadows that, somehow, are me. Here, she says, and the screen flares with a bright bruise laid across the dark rope of my cord. This hyperintensity on T2 suggests a contusion. Think of it like a deep bruise to the spinal cord. She clicks to another image. And here, compression fractures along the vertebral body, consistent with a fall downstairs. The neurosurgeon nods, tracing without touching. There's edema, swelling, in and around the cord. Another click, another angle, the bruise blooming like weather. Time matters with edema. Swelling can worsen deficits if not addressed. He doesn't look at my parents when he says it. He doesn't have to. He turns to me. What time was the fall? Just after 9, I say. My voice feels borrowed. What time did numbness start? Right away. It spread. When was 911 called? Just after 6. Kara answers from the doorway, small and unlit. The numbers hang in the air like a mobile, each card flipping to show its consequence. The doctor nods and dictates into a recorder, eyes on the screen. Imaging demonstrates spinal cord contusion at T12, L1 with surrounding edema. Compression fractures consistent with reported mechanism. Patient reports fall approximately 2,100 hours. Emergency activation approximately 0600 hours. Persistent sensorimotor deficits since injury. The words join my chart like iron filings aligning to a magnet. Timeline, cause, effect. What happens now? I ask. The room feels balanced on the tip of a pen. We admit you, the neurosurgeon says. Steroids to manage swelling. Close monitoring. Surgery if instability demands it. We'll start rehab planning early. He pauses, kindness without apology. We can't promise return. We can promise to fight for function. Mom nods too fast, as if agreeing might rewind anything. Dad studies his shoes. Kara's phone is dark in her hand. For once, nothing is being recorded except the truth. They wheel me back through corridors that smell like lemon and antiseptic. The machine's hammer beat still lives in my bones. Somewhere behind us, the image is cool on a server, the bruise blooming in frozen grayscale, a map of what's broken, and a clock that has already started. They wheel me to a quieter corner framed by a curtain that doesn't bother to pretend it's a wall. A woman in a soft cardigan appears, with a badge and a notebook that looks heavier than paper. I'm Mara, she says. Hospital social work. I'm here for you. Her voice is warm without the kind of heat that burns. She asks if we can talk alone. My parents hesitate like bouncers deciding on a dress code. The nurse backs her up, standard, necessary, and they step out, leaving a draft of worry behind them. Mara pulls a chair close enough to be human and not a clipboard. Before we start, she says, palms open, I need you to know I'm a mandated reporter. If I hear about safety concerns or neglect, I have to file a report. I'll explain everything. Nothing about this is a secret ambush. The word mandated lands like a gavel, not against me, but on my behalf. She asks for the story and lets silence work like a shovel, turning the ground until the truth breathes. I tell her about the staircase, the bite of something invisible around my ankles, the way the world shrank to wood and air, and then the quiet in my legs. I tell her about the ring light like a plastic halo, my sister's phone held horizontal, the request to say something for the viewers, when my toes wouldn't. I tell her the time, 9:00-something for the fall, the immediate numbness that spread like spilled ink, the ice bag and the ibuprofen with a date that belonged to my wisdom teeth, the way the night became a math problem of 15 minutes on, 15 off. I tell her how sleep it off was the plan, how I asked for an ambulance and got a price tag, how the call didn't happen until the sun put a blade through the blinds. Mara writes, the neat kind of handwriting that knows it may end up quoted. She doesn't flinch at any of it, not at the prank, not at the refusal. Has anything like this happened before? She asks gently. I say appendicitis, almost too late. How we laugh about it on holidays, like a story that didn't almost break me. She nods, not at me, but at the pattern. Thank you, she says, and it sounds like gratitude for evidence, not gossip. I'm going to file the required report for suspected neglect and delayed medical care. Here it's with the Department of Children and Families. It's not punishment, it launches an investigation and support. You'll know what's happening at each step. When she opens the curtain, my parents are there pretending they weren't listening. Mara keeps her voice even. Because of the injury and the delay in seeking care, we're making a mandatory report. I'll walk you through what that means. Mom's mouth forms a small no that doesn't stop anything. Dad starts a sentence with, we thought, and the thought trails off, all the way back to last night. Kara hovers behind them, phone dark, guilt bright. I'm suddenly aware of the caller, the way the machines have been quietly on my side all morning, documenting without asking me to convince them. The report isn't a siren, it's a record. A timeline set in ink. A hand on the lever that turns the lights back on in a city gone dark. By afternoon my phone is a small, panicked animal on the tray table, vibrating itself brave. I ignore it until the nurse finishes checking the line in my arm and leaves me with the beeps and the white ceiling and the quiet that pulls at my hips. Then a notification clause through Do Not Disturb because it has been pinned by too many hands to ignore. Someone has posted a video of my staircase. It's the living room I grew up in, suddenly a set. The ring light blooms like a counterfeit moon. Kara's whisper is the first sound. POV, your goody two-shoes sister can't take a joke. The camera tilts to a clear close-up. Fishing lines strung knee-high between banister posts. A smear of something glossy across 3 treads. She laughs a small, nervous laugh I recognize from every bad idea. The shot jumps. I enter frame holding a mug, end of day tired. You can see my foot catch on nothing you can see. The rest is a rush. My body pitching forward, would air the thud. Off screen, her breathless. Oh my god! Bright with the wrong kind of adrenaline. It loops. Someone slowed it down, added arrows, circled the line. The comments multiply like cells. This isn't a prank. WTF, call a lawyer. There are skull emojis, siren emojis, long chains of no, that feel truer than the language that birthed them. In the group chat named for our civics final, the tone shifts in real time. Last night it was eye rolls and, she's so dramatic. Now it's, I'm so sorry. Stacked 10 deep, punctuation heavy with guilt. A friend who told me to breathe and stretch texts a paragraph about not knowing, about how none of us could tell. Someone else types, deletes, types again, and lands on, I should have come over. A classmate I barely know DMs me the link with a single line. She sent this to my boyfriend last night to edit. He sent it to me. I couldn't watch and not post. Attached is the original file, metadata like a timestamp confession. I feel a small, hard thing inside me unhook, relief, maybe, or the satisfaction of a fact snapping into its slot. It doesn't change anything below my waist. The city is still dark. But above the line, the lights flicker on in rooms where I've been accused of theater. Mom texts from the cafeteria, careful sentences about misunderstandings. Dad sends nothing. Kara's name slides onto my screen 3 times and disappears. The bubbles appear, vanish, return, as if she's trying to decide whether apology is a noun or a verb. Finally, I never meant. And then nothing. The sentence breaks its own fall. I forward the link to Mara. For your report, I write, and she replies with a thank you and a promise that it will be preserved. The clip keeps traveling without me, picked up by accounts that speak fluent outrage. I should feel vindicated. What I feel is tired. On the screen, I loop and loop, forever about to fall, forever just after. Strangers say the right things. Friends recalibrate. The nurse comes in to hang steroids and smiles, like hope with a mask on. In the glow of my phone, the trap finally looks like what it was. The apology banners scroll past like ambulances that arrive when you're already inside the hospital. They wheel me out of neurosurgery with my belongings condensed to a plastic bag, phone charger, chapstick, the sweatshirt that still smells like my room before all this. The elevator opens to a floor that doesn't hum like crisis. It paces itself. Rehab smells less like bleach and more like rubber and coffee. On the wall, a vinyl banner says something about potential in bubbly letters that make me want to both cry and argue. A woman with quick eyes and a ponytail meets me at the nurse's station. Priya, occupational therapy, she says, as if we're fixing a kitchen together. A tall man in sneakers that have seen many hallways raises a hand. Louis PT. Their clipboards are thicker than fiction. They ask questions that live close to the ground. Can you roll? Sit unsupported? Lift your hips a hair? When I say, maybe, they mark it like good news. My room is small, bright, functional. The bed has rails that feel like parentheses. A wheelchair waits by the window like an invitation and a dare. After vitals and paperwork, the day starts pretending it's an ordinary schedule. PT at 9, OT at 11, nursing in between, a parade of names I try to keep like beads on a string. Luis teaches me to transfer with a slide board, the polished plank that becomes a bridge from bed to chair. He places his hands in the air near me, spotting, not touching, his voice steady as a level. Nose over toes, he says, and the phrase is silly and perfect. I lean, push with triceps that have become newly crucial, glide an inch, rest, glide another. The board creaks the way old boats do when they still believe in water. By the third try I'm sweating hard enough to taste metal. In the gym, The tilt table lifts me slowly toward standing, straps holding me like a careful hug. The world rushes when my feet remember gravity, even if they can't answer it. Blood argues with height, and then agrees. Priya wheels over a tray with toothbrush, spoon, stretchy putty. "Small things are big things," she says, and shows me how to dress without wrestling myself, how to protect skin I can't feel, how to perform tiny rebellions of independence with grabbers and loops and patience. Electrodes kiss my quads. A bike spins my legs while electricity persuades them to pretend. My hands learn pressure reliefs on the chair every 15 minutes. A clock I didn't know I'd have to wind with elbows and will. Between sets, the gym fills with sounds that aren't pity, laughter that knows the joke and still tries, grunts that are victories in disguise, 2 claps from a therapist when someone conquers a curb with their chair. At night, I inventory what moved because I asked. Hips, a whisper. Core, louder than yesterday. Abs, soar in a way that feels like a future. My legs remain a quiet neighborhood where the power company works after dark. Still, if I close my eyes, I can almost feel a fuse being checked, a line tested, a single porch light considering it might flicker back. I press the call button for pain meds and practice the slide board in my head, the tiny glide that adds up. Possibility isn't a promise. It's a routine. And tomorrow starts at 9. Visitor hours turn the rehab floor into a family referendum. The elevator opens, and opinions step out carrying tote bags. My mother's sister arrives first with a pot of soup she isn't allowed to heat, and a hug she is. "We're here for whatever you need," Aunt Lila says, which turns out to be fruit cups smuggled past the nurses, and a blanket that doesn't smell like hospital laundry. She texts me ride offers for a future where I leave this place. Hope on wheels. By dinner, Dad's brother plants himself at the foot of my bed, like a courtroom he built from memory. "Your parents did their best," Uncle Paul says, polishing the words until they shine. "Back in our day, we walked it off." He looks at my chair as if it's an argument he can outlast. His wife nods along like a metronome. They bring zero soup, only the gift of certainty. The group chat named Family Fam crackles like a brush fire. Emojis divide into camps. Prayer hands versus scales of justice. Cousin Mira sets up a meal train and a spreadsheet for visits. Cousin Blake posts a paragraph about how outsiders shouldn't be in our business, by which he means the mandated report and the video now living its own life online. My grandmother leaves a voice note saying she loves all her children and also believes in doctors. It sounds like an apology to gravity. The investigation has a file number now. Mara explains the steps to whoever will listen, which is mostly me. Some relatives hear, report, and think punishment. Others hear it and think seatbelt. Uncle Paul calls it betrayal in a text to my mother that she shows me eyes damp. Aunt Lila calls it protection and brings lemon bars. Kara doesn't come. She sends a message that starts with "I'm sorry" and immediately detours into the rubble of her brand. "Cancel culture is ruining my life," she writes, as if culture tripped me, not fishing line. "People are threatening me. I can't post. Sponsors are backing out. I hope you're okay though." Screenshots of death threats follow. A parade of strangers proving strangers are cruel. "This isn't what I wanted," she finishes, and for 1 second I believe her, because wanting is never the same as refusing to do. I type and delete 3 replies. I settle on a sentence with more edges than comfort. "I don't want you ruined. I want you accountable." She reads it and disappears into the blinking ellipsis. On Sunday, the cousins who believe in spreadsheets arrive with Tupperware labeled in tape and a joke about my new biceps. Uncle Paul stays away, sending links to articles about overreacting youth. My parents sit side by side and try to arrange their faces into one expression. "They mean well," Mom says, which is what she says when she needs other people's good intentions to count as actions. After lights out, the floor quiets to beeps and wheels. I scroll the chat until it blurs, then close my eyes and inventory the day's tiny victories. 2 clean sideboard transfers, a longer stand on the tilt table, 1 laugh that didn't hurt. Families love like weather, I think, sometimes a front, sometimes a shelter. In the dark below my waist, the city is still waiting. Above it, a few windows burn steady, enough to read by, enough to keep going tomorrow. The patient advocate appears with a clipboard and a promise that sounds like a life raft. I know someone who can help you navigate the non-medical mess, she says, and 20 minutes later an attorney is standing at the foot of my bed in a navy suit that has seen both victories and fluorescent lighting. He introduces himself as Arjun Mehta, sets his leather folio on the tray table between the Jello and my phone, and asks if I'm comfortable talking now. I am. I've been waiting for a grown-up in this part of the story. He listens first, which feels like an intervention. I give him the stairs, the line, the video, the ice, the dawn. He doesn't flinch. 2 tracks, he says finally, voice calm as a level. Criminal is already moving without you. That's the state's lane. Civil is yours. We decide who's accountable and in what language. He sketches with words, not a pen. Against your sister, there's an intentional tort, battery, possibly intentional infliction of emotional distress. She set a trap. Intent to harm isn't required if intent to cause the contact is clear. Alternatively, negligence, careless conduct that foreseeably caused injury. We can plead in the alternative. He turns a page. Against your parents, the issue is the overnight delay. Negligence for failure to seek timely care, potentially increasing the harm. The MRI's edema helps that timeline. Insurance floats up like a wary fish. Homeowners or renters' policies often cover negligence, he says, and often exclude intentional acts. If we only plead intentional, the insurer may deny coverage and you be chasing personal assets. If we include negligence where it fits, we open the door to defense and indemnity. There may also be med pay, small no-fault benefits, for immediate bills. He glances at my four-pole. Your health insurer will assert a lien for what they pay. We negotiate that later. My phone buzzes, as if on cue. He nods at it. Preservation is urgent. We'll send litigation hold letters today to your sister, your parents, the classmate who posted, anyone with copies, demanding they preserve phones, cloud backups, drafts, metadata. Deleting after notice is spoliation. Judges don't like it. He lists platforms in a soft litany: iCloud, Google Photos, TikTok, Instagram, and explains subpoenas and server retention windows like weather warnings. Keep the original file you received. Don't edit, don't forward except to me. Chain of custody matters. He asks about the phishing line, the wax, receipts, text threads. I tell him Kara's half apology about sponsors and cancel culture, and he writes the phrase down as if it might one day introduce a jury to motive. No more public posts, he adds gently. The defense will read everything. Let me be loud for you. We talk contingency fees and timelines, the statute of limitations that now has a birthday, the possibility of an umbrella policy sleeping in a filing cabinet at home. He promises demand letters that sound like doorbells you can't ignore. Before he leaves, he lowers his voice. You didn't cause this by telling the truth, he says, like he's adjusting my collar. You're allowed to want accountability and care at the same time. After he's gone, the room feels newly plumbed, pipes labeled, valves located. In PT, I practice slide board transfers with the same small ferocity I felt when he said battery, negligence, coverage. 2 tracks, he'd said. My body is fighting on one. My name will stand on the other. And for the first time since the fall, I believe they might meet somewhere I can live. They bring the proof in a gray plastic bin, the way you'd carry files through rain. Arjun introduces the digital forensics guy with a nod that means trust this one. We sit in a windowless conference room off the rehab gym. I can hear someone down the hall counting reps to 10 like a spell. The analyst sets out a laptop, a stack of printouts, a drive in a zip bag with a sticker that reads like a passport, device ID time, hash. Deleted isn't gone, he says, gentle, and opens the report. Screens bloom with dates and blue bubbles. Kara's messages unspool in a timeline that doesn't care about our feelings. A week before the fall, a link to a prank account, then she needs to loosen up face with tears of joy. Then, tripwire would be epic, clear line, so it won't show on camera. 2 days later, a shopping list typed into notes, like groceries, monofilament fishing line, paste wax, ring light batteries, tape. The metadata stamps hours. GPS pings a hardware store we used to pass on the way to piano lessons. A receipt follows in photos. 10 pounds test mono. And floor paste. The total's a small apology to the future. There are drafts of the video caption, the version I heard, and others she didn't post. Watch till the end. Don't try this at home. Sibling prank gone wrong, grimacing face. In the recently deleted album, the staircase clip lives beside shorter takes of her stringing the line between the banister posts, testing it with her knee and whispering, "Perfect." The software resurrects them one by one, each with a timestamp, like a drumbeat marching toward 9. He clicks a different tab, and the room tilts. My parents' group thread fills the screen, a domestic weather report. 9:17 p.m. Mom. She fell. Icing. Don't want to panic. Dad. No ambulance. We'll wait. She always ramps up before exams. 11:43 p.m. Mom. She says toes are numb. Dad. She's anxious. We'll reassess at 6. 2:06 a.m. Mom. What if it's serious? Dad. Hospitals will just say ice/rest. Ambulance $. The analyst doesn't read the dollar signs aloud. He doesn't have to. Search histories line up like footprints. Invisible tripwire, best fishing line clear, how to remove wax from stairs, ambulance cost. Location shows the phone pacing our hallway after the fall, then going still. I breathe carefully so I don't disturb the evidence. Arjun watches me, not the screen. This is the spine of the case, he says, and I hate that the word lands where it does. He points to the preservation logs, the hashes that promise the files are themselves and not wishful thinking. We'll move to subpoena carriers for backups, send the demand to the store for video, and file notices so none of this expires. In the printouts, Kara types, I'll film it but not to hurt her. She adds 5 laughing faces that look like masks. In the thread with her friend, if she freaks it's on her. She needs to loosen up. I feel something inside me harden and then set, like resin. The analyst zips the drive back into its bag and writes the seal number in tidy block letters. Chain of custody, like a rosary. Outside, someone nails a transfer in the parallel bars and laughter bursts through the wall, bright and ordinary. Arjun gathers the stack and closes the laptop. We don't have to convince the universe anymore, he says. Just a judge. Just a jury. I nod, and for a second the dark city below my waist seems to hear that word, just, and consider a light. Family court smells like old paper and rain-soaked coats. Juvenile matters are closed to the public, which somehow makes the room feel more exposed. Kara sits at the far end of the table with a court-appointed attorney who keeps touching her elbow as if assurance can be transferred by skin. She looks smaller without her ring light, the blue of her blouse too bright for the gray day. The clerk reads the caption, the judge enters, and my lawyer, Arjun, stands. He lays the spine of our case on the table. The video, the planning texts, the receipt for fishing line and wax, the metadata stamped like a clock that cannot be argued with. The prosecutor handles the exhibits like fragile truth. The judge watches without blinking. They play the clip once. Even without sound, it hollows the room. In slow motion, the line gleams for a heartbeat before I don't. Kara's attorney says words like immature judgment and never intended harm, and the judge asks for intent in the only language that counts. Arjun points to the messages. Tripwire would be epic, clear line, and she needs to loosen up. He doesn't raise his voice. He just lets the phrasing sit there, the way the line sat between the posts. The neurosurgeon's letter comes in through stipulation. No theatrics, just the kind of authority that makes people adjust how they're sitting. MRI demonstrates spinal cord contusion at T12, L1 with surrounding edema, compression fractures consistent with a fall downstairs. On the next page, the timestamps, 2100 hours fall, 6:07:911. The paramedics note, patient reports numbness immediately post-fall. The judge underlines the times with a fountain pen I envy for its certainty. Kara doesn't look at me. When the judge asks if she has anything to say, she starts with, I never meant, and swallows the rest. Her lawyer nudges her toward prepared remorse. It lands like a paper airplane. The case shifts rooms for my parents. Different seal on the door, same rain on the windows. The investigator from the department reads the overnight messages in a voice that refuses drama. She says toes are numb. We'll reassess at 6. Ambulance $. My mother twists a tissue to threads. My father stares at a spot on the wall, as if the right angle might save him. The judge is patient but not gentle. After a fall with neurological symptoms, she says, tapping the MRI report, every hour matters. The delay here is not a misunderstanding. It is neglect. The word pins itself to the table and won't get up. Findings: for Kara, adjudication in the juvenile case with probation, community service, mandated counseling, and conditions that read like guardrails. For my parents, substantiated neglect, required education oversight. No one is hauled away. Accountability almost never looks like TV. It looks like signatures and supervision, and the long, boring work of not failing someone again. When we file out, the hallway is full of echoes. Arjun touches the back of my chair, the lightest steer. You did exactly what you needed to, he says. In the elevator, I watch our reflections tremble in the brushed steel. The city below my waist stays dark. The rest of me hums with the plain, heavy power of a timeline set in ink. Outside, the rain keeps its promise, steady and clean. Sentencing day tastes like photocopy toner and old coffee. The judge's voice is sanded smooth from years of saying consequences out loud. For Kara, it comes measured. Probation with check-ins that will not care how sorry she looks. 200 hours of community service where the work will not applaud her. Counseling she must actually attend. A no-contact order bans midnight DMs and doorstep apologies. Any future communication has to go through lawyers or a supervised channel that treats feelings like hazardous material. She nods hard enough to look repentant. The pen scrapes. It's law now, not likes. My parents' matter is quieter and somehow heavier. They accept a deal that reads like an instruction manual they should have owned all along. Charges reduced. Fines that sting but don't ruin. Mandatory education on recognizing medical emergencies. Compliance monitoring. The judge's eyes rest on them for one long still second. You don't get to sleep off other people's pain, she says. Mom's tissue gives up and tears in two. Civil moves on a different clock. Arjun shepherds me into conference rooms where carpets swallow footsteps and numbers rise like weather fronts. He translates the insurer's language. The homeowner's carrier tenders policy limits for negligence. The umbrella shakes itself awake and adds a layer. Intentional acts exclusion stays shut to Kara, but the alternative pleading keeps a narrow door open. Health insurance asserts a lien like a hand on the bill. Arjun negotiates that hand smaller. We don't talk about victory. We talk about roofs that don't leak. The settlement is money in a cast, rigid so it can hold. We sign a stack of papers thick enough to alter gravity, and the funds flow into an irrevocable long-term care trust with a trustee whose job is to be boring on my behalf. It will pay for the ramp that will grow out of my front steps, the bathroom that won't turn daily life into a circus trick, the chair that can climb curbs, the van that kneels, the therapies that ask my muscles the same question until one day they answer. It will keep lights on in the future even when I can't predict the storm. Arjun slides me a copy of the trust instrument with my name spelled correctly on every page. This isn't charity, he says. It's restitution. It lets you build. The word build lands better than heal. Money doesn't fix a spinal cord bruise. It buys time, hands, rails, days that hurt less. It is not forgiveness. It is infrastructure. When we leave, the corridor is bright in that hospital way that makes everyone look awake. Kara passes me once in silence, flanked by her attorney and the supervised distance the court requires. My parents walk together, smaller but upright, the mandatory class schedule folded neatly in my mother's purse. I wheel toward the elevator and picture my house the way a contractor does. Measurements, thresholds, angles that will become possible. The city below my waist is still dark. But somewhere in the grid, a substation hums to life. Not a miracle. A switch. A plan. A promise I can take home. Moving day starts with a tape measure and ends with a door that opens when I ask it to. The accessible apartment is a small, bright box that respects physics. Zero threshold shower, grab bars like sentences that don't let you fall out, counters lowered to where my elbows live now. A contractor leaves behind a remote for the front door. I press the button and it whooshes like a polite magic trick. Independence sounds like that, air moving where it didn't before. I learn the choreography of new angles. Sideways to the sink. diagonal to the bed. The transfer board hangs on a hook, like a violin I practice every day. I tape little bump dots on light switches and label drawers with a label maker that feels ridiculous and perfect. A ramp grows out of the stoop, a short tongue that says come into whoever I am now. At the training center they introduce me to a golden retriever with caramel eyelashes and the work ethic of a librarian. Her name is Maple. We learn each other's grammar. Take. Keys off the floor into my lap. Tug. A rope loop on the fridge. Push. Elevator button, automatic door plate, me grinning like a kid who found a hack. She offers a steady shoulder at transfers and curls under the table in cafes, like she's been practicing invisibility her whole life. The first time she noses my phone into my palm after it slides under the couch, I cry so hard she sneezes in concern and then licks my wrist until the worry dissolves. College becomes a conversation instead of a deadline. I ask for a deferral. The disability office answers with a map, housing modifications, note-taking software, exam accommodations that aren't charity, just better design. An essay I write about stairs and stories turns into a scholarship for disability advocacy, which feels like someone handing me a megaphone and a chair that fits. I say yes to spring. I say yes like a plan. The rehab friendships don't end at discharge. They replant themselves. Our group chat, roll call, pings all day with victories. Amina conquers a curb cut that used to bully her. Jules masters a bathroom transfer in a motel that didn't get the memo about ADA. Marco wheels a 5K and sends a photo where his smile is bigger than the finish line. We meet on Saturdays for coffee and adaptive basketball in a gym that smells like rubber and second chances. We clap for each other the way metronomes keep time. Steady, exact, believing. Nights are quieter now. The city below my waist still has dark blocks, but the grid hums different. Detours are lit. Generators kick in. I can feel abs waking up, a hip flexor clearing its throat. Progress is petty and magnificent. The first solo transfer in the morning without bargaining, the bus driver who waits, Maple's head heavy on my knee, while the world moves and I do, too. It isn't the life I studied for, but it's one I am building on purpose. Ramps and rails, dogs and friends, policy and muscle memory, lights coming back on one intersection at a time. I start with a blank page and a deadline I give myself. The story has been living in other people's mouths for months. Court transcripts, medical notes, a video that loops without my consent. This time it will live in mine. I write about the line that looked like air and the night that tried to turn me into a lesson. I write about the price of an ambulance compared to the cost of a spinal cord. I write, prank, and then cross it out and type. Harm filmed. An editor runs it on a Sunday, and my inbox becomes a map of places where stairs are waiting. Schools call first, then lawmakers, staffers with polite voices and calendars. I wheel into a gym that smells like wax and whistles, and tell a room of teenagers what consent and consequence look like on wood. We talk about policies with teeth, bans on booby traps dressed as jokes, disciplinary codes that name what this really is, anonymous reporting that doesn't require someone to fall first. A state rep asks if I'll testify. I show up in a blazer, Maple asleep under the table like a warm comma, and say that content is not a defense. I ask for anti-prank language that treats planned hazards like weapons, because that's what they are when you aim them at a body. Parents invite me to their cafeterias, their Zoom boxes, their uneasy living rooms. We pass around cold compresses and facts. We practice the first 5 minutes after a fall the way schools practice fire drills. I tell them how to spot red flags, when to call, how to ignore the price tag until the person is safe. We talk about the difference between overreacting and arriving in time. We practice saying, I don't know, so we go. Platforms listen with one ear. Their reps assure me of community guidelines, while the algorithm shuffles to its next song. I keep asking anyway. Automatic takedowns for tripwire tags. Warnings that aren't decoration. Consequences for creators who script harm and then claim surprise. Sponsors that don't cling to influencers like barnacles while victims learn to walk again. The meetings are polite and exhausting. I bring other voices, nurses, teachers, kids with casts. We keep the receipts. I redraw family on graph paper. Limited contact means public places, daytime, a start time and an end time. My parents show me certificates from the mandatory class, and I show them a list of lines we won't cross again. If anyone says, dramatic, the visit ends. If anyone minimizes, I stand, metaphorically or with Maple, and leave. We are not punishing each other. We are using rails. Kara writes sometimes through the supervised channel the order allows. I send back sentences that are true and short. Accountability is not a season you wait out. It's a job you do. People tell me I'm brave. I think I'm loud. Once, that word got used against me, dramatic, as if volume were vanity. Now I wear it on purpose. Sirens aren't dramatic, they're directional. A boundary isn't drama, it's infrastructure. I speak up early so someone else can stand later. The city below my waist is still patchy, but the lights I do have are bright and aimed. I don't ask permission to turn them on.